Are we all Marxists now? Okay, what do I mean by that? It's not some kind of blanched Tucker Carlson propaganda. Rather, what I'm saying is there were three stages that happened in German idealism, and this was in control of the most powerful universities in the world, the only rivals being Cambridge and Oxford. So, in other words, the most powerful intellectual authorities globally. The first view, and remember, I give you an extra proof of this. Copernicus himself was actually a Prussian citizen. So this goes back all the way to the 16th century when Copernicus set the current mood. Is Prussian. The first stage of German idealism sets out from physics as the claim that the blind play of the Newtonian forces, the new metaphysics of Newton, the metaphysics of gravity and of the account of cause and effect, which the concept of force implies. Against the concept of the blind forces and stochastic forces, thereby there came out the Rousseauian Kantian synthesis, if you like, and from this it's become more famous in the form of Hegel. So very recently Condoleezza Rice has made this statement that the American policy from the beginning, so in the 18th century already when this has started with Kant, there's been a dominance of the idealist tradition over the realist tradition. And she gives a very beautiful statement of this in the sense of Calon, very simple statement. This means the belief that the specific principles behind the founding of the government will be determinate in the international behavior of a nation. So that therefore this accounts for the Bush Doctrine. In other words, the idealist tradition is the more powerful, but then it gets a little bit tricky. Okay, so then the idealist against the realist version that sheer power determines power and interest determine the international behavior of other countries. But within this Bush Doctrine vision, there appears a Spaltung, and we see on one side the view that for realist reasons it was thought that in order to combat the attractive and appealing ideas that other countries, so we're talking about after 2001, after 9/11, were offering in the form of certain forms of Islamic teaching, remembering that in the Islamic world we don't have the sharp division of church and state. There's a kind of primitive unity, if you like, still, where they say of the Western countries that Christ and Platon sit outside the city weeping, whereas their prophet is also the secular and warlike leader. So we have this situation where something that's being sold by a secular and warlike leader is Condoleezza Rice is saying they wanted something to entice them away from that, or to give them, that's not the right way to state it, but to give them another option aside from that. And so that is the Salesforce version then of that idealism, in the form of trying to put forward liberal democracy as the best, Navalny in Russia, for instance, as the best option. And then I'll just mention, in de facto, it's true that there's a certain proportion of Russians that then find that appealing, and in other countries, so that there's a certain effect to this Bush doctrine of fighting different visions, different expansive visions of the future according to principles. So we had this idealist side. To go back to the first thing, we had the physics, blind physics. Then we had this idealist side, and the idealist side is what I was just trying to put forward. So in Hegel, for instance, the same thing. The ideas are moving across the centuries, and one of the ideas, which was said by Hegel to be the final thing, is this vision of liberal democracy, which for Hegel was, however, true. For Hegel, it was, I say liberal democracy because Hegel was for the equal rights of the citizen under the law, which is the basic essence of liberal democracy, but in the specific form for him of constitutional monarchy of Prussia. But the constitutional monarchy of Prussia is just the form. It's not the politeia. It's not the heart of the Heimat, or the political community. Hegel's trying to draw the core of it is the sense that justice has to do with everyone being the same under the law, and the law being blind, or blindfolded, as in the statues. From that, then we go to this specific, finally we get to the place where we started. So then we get to the specific Marxist question, which is, Marx is the first to say, not the blind forces of so-called fusus or nature, not the high ideas of the furthest that dialectic can bring us to, or that the philosophers can bring us to, or the theologians, but what chiefly shapes the world is the way man works, the kind of work he does, how he makes a living. So this view is a third view in tension with the idealist and the materialist version. So we're often leaving that unthought.